Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Cardinal Dash. We have a special crossover episode for you today. I'm Daniel Martinez-Krams, joined by Ryan Root, and so excited to have you here with us. We're talking about a canceled game, but we're still talking football, and that's always a treat. So, Ryan, going to bring you in. The game's canceled. What can you tell us about what went down?
Well, I can tell you it's not Stanford's fault as far as I can see from everything that's come out. It seems that this was kind of just something that came up this morning. The Cougs tested some players at 11 a.m. today with, I believe, 9 people in either protocol or tested positive. We had some cases that popped up. I know last night quarterback Jaden DeLora tested positive, and that was definitely going to be a challenge for this team going into the game this Saturday. We had a great backup in Gunnar Cruz that was projected to go in and play for us, but the game's canceled now. Cougs don't have 53 players to play this Saturday, so we would have been able to play if we didn't have the complete circus events go on with our roster this past off season, but just don't have enough players to play. It's hard to see a school like WSU have a game canceled when we had such a good we had such a good grasp on things in terms of COVID, but I mean, it's disappointing, but whatever has to happen to keep these players safe is fine, and that's the number one priority. But it's disappointing for sure.
Disappointing, and I know I personally was really excited to see Gunnar Cruz, see Washington State. Seemed like it was going to be a great game between two great programs in the conference. I was excited for it. Both teams have something to prove this year, which I was really excited for that game. But I think it just brings us back to the fact that we're playing football in a pandemic, and we're doing that, as David Shaw keeps coming back to, because the players want to. Stanford and the entire conference was totally willing to say, you know what, no season. But the players really were the ones bringing it back. They were the ones who wanted to play. They were the ones who were assuming the risk. And so the coaches felt that was fair, that if they have the testing in place, they have the protocols in place, and the players want to play, then we'll try and do it. But again, we've seen this so many times throughout the conference, all 3 weeks, that there's game cancellations, and it seems like no one can get it under control because, to be honest, the virus is not under control. It's replicating like crazy. It's spreading across the country. It's already across this country and around the world. I put my biology hat on here for a little bit. People call me Doc here at Dash Sports, and I appreciate that. But the fact is, we probably shouldn't be playing right now, and a little bit scary that all of this is happening, and we're worsening the virus, worsening the disease for so many people. And at the end of the day, though, it is a football game that's being canceled. This past week, Jet Toner was asked about his awful first game. He went 0 for 4 on field goals, widely made fun of, and I think he said, you know what, that's okay. I missed 4 field goals, that's fine. Able to put in perspective, though, right? It's a football game. These things happen, and people are out here fighting a virus, fighting a disease. And at the end of the day, this is just another football thing, and there's other real things going on.
Yeah, I just want to put out a PSA to all Coug fans out there. Our game's canceled, and that may stink for a while, but this Sunday we may see Minshew retake the field. He's got a fractured thumb injury that Oregon State quarterback Jacob Luton couldn't figure out this past Sunday, so that was always great to see as a Coug fan. But Minshew Mania could be back this Sunday, guys. So, just keep a lookout and see if the stash comes out to play this Sunday. But Daniel, I want to go back to the kicker of this team, because other than I mean, you can, I don't know if you tuned in on our Cougar Dash episode this past Thursday. Of course, you can watch that 4:00 every Thursday. I got to plug my own show at least once. So, I'm not scared of too much from the Stanford team. I wasn't scared too much of anything on this team going into Saturday's game before it got canceled. I mean, I even broke down the roster to the kicker, and it's like you said, he was a meme in itself. Like, he was Steven Gostkowski earlier this season, right? Like, I wasn't even scared of the kicker, and even WSU's got a nationally recognized kicker in Blake Mazza. And is there something that was going to really put this game on notice for the Cougs that I just didn't take into account? Because I don't see much of a scary roster that Stanford's got to really scare this Cougar offense.
And that's a totally valid and worthwhile point there. Jet Toner, the kicker, is actually a nationally recognized kicker as well. has had great 3 seasons before. He's made 104 point after attempts. A very, very talented kicker. Had one bad day. Widely expected to recover from that, and he did. He kicked 3 field goals perfect last week, no problem. So the kicker was not going to be the issue for Stanford, but the issue was that the kicker was going to be called on so much. Stanford throughout this year has struggled in the red zone, has struggled to get points at the end of the field. They've settled for field goals numerous times. I think the bigger problem with that loss to Oregon when Toner missed those 4 field goals is that he kicked 4 field goals. That should never be a situation in a game. At a certain point, you just got to be going for it because you're in the red zone so frequently. That's how you get points. And this conference and this year, how the game is being played, you can't settle. So what I think was going to put Washington State on notice is this receiver group. That's what Stanford has been talking up all year. They have Davis Mills. They love Davis Mills. Last year, he threw for 504 yards against Wazoo. They were saying, you know what? These receivers who they thought were the best in the conference, we're going to put a lot of people on notice. There's Connor Weddington, the Washington native, who was training at Ford Sports Performance facility in the offseason with a lot of the Seattle guys. He was going one-on-one against Stanford alum Richard Sherman. So that's a big name. Simi Fehoko, who set the school record for receiving yards per catch last year. Mike Wilson, a great possession receiver. And then names like Bryson Tremaine, Osiris St. Brown that are gaining a lot of ground. They were really excited about all of that. Osiris St. Brown is supposed to make his season debut this game. So that's where Stanford is going to lean in this game. But no game, and Stanford has a lot of need to find where that power is going to come from because they haven't proven it so far this season.
Well, I'm glad that some players got to work out with some Stanford alums because that's probably about the best training they could have gotten this offseason. But if we're really going to talk about Davis Mills here, he passed for 500 yards against the Coug defense last year. To be honest, I could have passed for 500 yards against this Coug defense last year, where our defense was terrible. I mean, we had 200-yard rushing games from the opposing players some games for WSU. I'll be honest with you, Davis Mills to me is pretty bottom half on the list of the best quarterbacks in the Pac-12. He's got a true freshman, Jayden DeLore, showing him up after the first 2 weeks. I mean, Cody and I over on Cougar Dash already discussed it. Jayden DeLore is turning some heads, not only on the conference level, but on the national level. We both agreed he's probably in the top third of Pac-12 quarterbacks. I'll still give Slovis and McDaniels. I'll still give them their credit where it's due. And I do like Sam Neuer a little bit this year. And I'm not a huge Shuck fan, but Tyler Shuck knows how to pass to his running backs for 5 yards apiece and defeat WSU last week. But Davis Mills, he's got 1 passing touchdown. I get he only played 1 game, but he's got 1 passing touchdown against a pretty. I love keeping up with Colorado, but Colorado is they're no Oregon, right? They're no Utah. If Utah can play a game this Sunday, hopefully they do. There's Saturday. But, Davis Mills, sure, he's been on the team. I get it. But Jayden DeLore is out here putting points on the board. I don't care if he worked out with Andrew Luck himself. Okay. It's all about putting points up on the board. And if Davis Mills wants to even put a win in the win column for Stanford, he's going to have to do a little bit more than score 1 touchdown to his favorite receiver, who's the receiver that has the 1 touchdown. I can't remember his name right now.
I believe it's Scooter Harrington, the tight end who had his first touchdown since high school. But yeah, no, that's
he got his first touchdown since high school. Is that what you said?
First touchdown since high school.
And how old is he?
It's got to be like 23. I think he's a 5th-year senior. Yeah.
His first touchdown since high school? That's like 5 years.
It's like 5 years, exactly. So,
and Davis Mills cannot be pumped this highly up if he's got 1 touchdown to someone who hasn't scored in 5 years. But he's all right. But you had no idea what this Cougar defense was going to bring on Saturday. I tell you that much. I mean, yeah, we lost to number 11 Oregon, but I mean, so did you guys, right? Like number 11 Oregon, they're 11th in the nation for a reason, and of course, we were bound to lose that game as far as the odds were last week. But this Cougar offense would have lit up this Stanford team. I mean, what you guys had all of your Pac-12 nominations are in the preseason were all linemen. Well, you had 2 O linemen and 1 D lineman, and I don't think there's a single first team all Pac-12, or maybe there was 1. But we're doing everything over here on WSU's end without number 1 running back in the conference, Max Borghi. So, you got to do a little bit more than Davis Mills here. What else is Stanford doing that I just don't know?
Well, I'm gonna have to defend Davis Mills here a bit because I don't know if what your research has been like. He was the number one recruit out of high school. Hasn't played much because he was behind KJ Costello, obviously, who had cemented himself in a run to the Pac-12 championship. And then Davis Mills, though, coaches are so high on him because he's just so calm, great passer. That was a very, very catchable ball. I talked to his high school coach in the offseason as well as his high school quarterbacks coach. So everyone's high on him. That's universal. And then obviously last year thrown into the fire and able to have a couple of nice games. And then this year he was coming off one practice. And nobody wants to make excuses on their side, but I think it's fair to say that 45 minutes on a Friday, the day before, after you've been in isolation for a week due to a false positive COVID test, is no one's idea of a good time. So Davis Mills is talented, and I think it's very easy to say better than Jaden DeLaura. We've seen Jaden DeLaura for 2 games, and I've written about it too. You can't read too much into 2 games because there's a thing called statistics, and you got to take that into account. And it's you don't read into small sample sizes. So Davis Mills has proven himself. High school recruiting people, I mean, they've had a lot of misses, but this is a guy that universally well regarded, and I think was going to have a great game. But you're right that I don't think Stanford has much else to go to. I saw the defense being like wet tissue paper in this game. I expected Wazoo to put up a ridiculous amount of points, as they so often do against Stanford. That's been the norm. Wazoo's won the last 4 in this game, and I was leaning Wazoo for the win. I didn't see much out of Stanford except to say that Davis Mills could put the team on his arm and potentially put up a lot of points, but that was going to be the path to victory. Other than that, it was not going to be a successful game for Stanford. They were hoping to get their run game back. They looked good against Oregon, and then all went back against Colorado, and that was a really regressing game. Stanford had a little bit of confidence, as you're saying, going up against top 11. I think they were 12 at the time Stanford played them. Going up against top teams in the conference, they thought, hey, we gained some momentum. Against Colorado, they looked awful. Again, though, without their starting quarterback for all of practice until Friday.
Well, as much as we can talk about the game that could have been, I figured it's time we could probably move on to the second topic by now and say that this is a canceled game. You know, don't get me wrong, it's disappointing, but it's pretty safe to say that I think they'll figure it out, especially on Stanford's end. I don't know specifically, and you can feel free to chime in here, but I haven't heard too much on Stanford's end in terms of not properly socially distancing or tests or anything like that. Like I haven't heard too much on their end in positive tests or just COVID troubles as a whole. And the same goes for WSU. It really did not happen until this week that we had all these cases pop up out of nowhere. Like I said, we found out DeLaura had COVID literally last night. And he may or may not be able to play in the Apple Cup next week, depending on how things go. We may be playing the Apple Cup on a Sunday instead of Friday. We don't know right now, and there's a lot of speculation going on. But I tip my hat off to Wazoo athletic director Pat Chun for the way that he's handled this and the way that they're figuring this whole thing out. I am definitely optimistic for at least 3 to 4 more games this season. Hopefully, there's no more cancellations, but are you optimistic as well for this Cardinal team?
I am optimistic for basically one reason, and it's that Cal looked pretty bad when they played last week. And Stanford this year has pretty much, there's not much to be gained out of this season. There's a little bit you can show recruits about your style. You can get some wins. Stanford hasn't won, and I think it's 391 days now. So that would be nice to get a win sometime this season. But really, the only thing that matters to Stanford and the Stanford fans is getting the Axe back. It's the Stanford Axe. It's called the Stanford Axe for a reason. Ask any of the coaches, and they'll tell you that. And a lot of them went to Stanford because Stanford keeps things in-house. But that's the reason I'm optimistic for this year. It's that the big game will be next Friday, and Stanford has a chance to win it. Other than that, it's all about building momentum. It's all about getting playing time for young guys. Stanford has the 4th youngest team in the nation in terms of number of underclassmen. So it was just about getting experience. It was about seeing what Davis Mills could do. It was about trying to find an impact playmaker on the defense. So far, we haven't found that. We had the guys who were expected to step up, and they've performed their roles, but no one who's shot out of a cannon. So in terms of what I'm excited for, what I'm optimistic for Stanford, it's all about next Friday on that Black Friday big game.
I have to agree with you definitely on, this year was kind of trying to get our feet under us and, start running for success again. I know what you guys went 4-8 last year, even though we went 6-7, I believe, with our bowl game. I think it was pretty evident that WSU was on a little bit of a decline from the end of the Leach era. Of course, we were throwing for 5 million passing yards a game, but that only got us a 6-7 record. And you know, it, let's just say Gordon wasn't Minshew. That's all I'm going to say. But no, WSU had a similar kind of way this season. It's new head coach, new defensive coordinators, uh, no transfer quarterback savior to come in like Minshew or Anthony Gordon or anything like that. No 4-year starter like Luke Falk. We had a three-way quarterback competition between Cameron Cooper, Gunnar Cruz, and of course Jaden Delora. We have a true freshman quarterback playing for us right now that if it wasn't for the Pac-12 season, in my opinion, just being a long campaign for Oregon to make the college football playoff, to be honest with you, and USC try to, battle with them for that. But, they could be 0-2 for all I know if they weren't lucky these past 2 weeks. So with taking that into account of the Pac-12 season being basically just a campaign for Oregon to make it back into the CFP, WC was on a similar boat. We had to figure out this quarterback situation. We had a good feeling that it was going to be Cameron Cooper this last summer. I mean, he had been sitting on the bench behind Luke Falk, Gardner Minshew, Anthony Gordon, all of which declared for the draft. Two of them got drafted. Anthony Gordon is trying out for the 49ers this weekend, which is pretty entertaining, the Bay native himself. So Cameron Cooper got to sit behind all of these quarterbacks, and I'm not going to lie, it's kind of disheartening to see that he's still sitting on the bench after this whole time. But Jaden Delora, the way that he had been playing this season definitely gave us some life, and to think, we could have a 3-3 season, we could have a 4-3 season. Sure, we're going to play Oregon and USC, and we're going to play a tough game against Cal, but we did have some of these games against Oregon State, Stanford, and UW. I thought this year was the year that we were going to take down the Huskies. We were going to finally get an Apple Cup throughout my tenure here at WSU. But we were on a similar boat. This was a year that we needed to reestablish ourselves as a Cougar football team that is turning more and more heads every single year. And we had a bit of a hiccup last year and a global hiccup this year, but I got to be optimistic for a WSU team that's obviously shown improvement in nearly every statistical category, especially running the ball. I mean, a lot of people are looking at Delora for his passing ability, but we ran for more yards than we passed for them week 1. So we had a similar storyline this offseason, and I definitely got to relate with you. And as much as we hate to see this game canceled, it's still just great to see both of our programs just building up and trying to make something out of such scraps that we had from the year before.
No, that's totally fair. It's finding whatever you can out of this season. Eligibility isn't going to count against anyone. So it's just finding little moments where you can improve your team, improve your program, show something to recruits, get a little bit of momentum on the field, give your fans something to cheer about. I know Stanford wants that win really bad. I think for both teams, just finding a quarterback, settling on a quarterback is going to be big. I think for Wazoo, just having that first year of a new head coach out of the way. A lot of times, coaches talk about, first year is kind of a throwaway year, but this was a throwaway year anyway. So I think that helps both teams. And then with that, we can talk about the future of both programs. Stanford was last in the championship game in 2017. That was a tough loss. And then Washington State on a tiebreaker in 2018 wasn't able to make it. And but just which program gets to that Pac-12 championship next, in your opinion?
You can't ask me that question and really expect me to lean your way, but I'll go ahead and improve my case here for WSU. I mean, I'll be honest, if it wasn't for bad weather in 2018, we would have made it to the Pac-12 championship. We would have made it to the Rose Bowl, to be honest with you. We were so hot that nothing was stopping us. Okay, if it wasn't for bad weather in Pullman, That was probably the worst weather experience I've had in my entire life, let alone a football game. If it wasn't for bad weather, we'd be in that possession. We'd be in that position, and maybe we could still have Leach to this point. But he wanted to go coach in the SEC. He was hunting ducks for a while. Now he's hunting tigers down there in Mississippi State. But as as much as I wanted to, have that Pac-12 championship in 2018, let me just be the first to say Delora has, I'm going to say it again, Delora obviously has a ton of electricity with this Cougar offense. I mean, he's got a little bit of, he's just got a little bit of everything when he's out there. The fact that he can move around so the fact that he has so much agility in the pocket and outside the pocket, and he's always looking downfield, and you can almost never seem to bring down the guy. I mean, Oregon's defense is a nationally recognized defense. They only brought him down once over the course of the whole game last week. So that, and he didn't have a single turnover against Oregon. Another great stat to have as a true freshman, and that's just the quarterback. Thinking that Max Borghi is going to be here next year, there's another there's another top 10 running back in the nation for you to be on our offense. We already got a deep receiving core, one of the best receiving cores in the conference. You can see two of our receivers are in the top 5 in receiving yards. And then you got our defense, new defensive coordinating staff that's been killing it these past 2 weeks. And Blake Mazza, I mean, he's bound to go to the league at some point, but we don't have many holes to fill in. Okay. And you can prove your case here for Stanford, but WSU, everything seems to be working itself out, and I don't see how we can't contend for a championship in the next season or two.
That surprises me that you think that it's a year or two away. But no, I asked this question mainly because I wanted to say that Stanford's future is not looking bright, and we've been talking about that for a while on the farm now. But there's been a serious skid, and I kind of wanted to get your opinion on it. But I don't see Stanford in a championship game for quite some time. I think recruiting's been hit a little bit. Fine class last year, but this next year's class isn't looking great. I think the pieces were there for making a run even this year. I thought that was their best chance for a while because what will be the senior class next year, the current junior class, has not really impressed. I thought this year's senior class was really what they were going to lean on. But no, Stanford isn't going to be going back to that game for quite some years. And that's just an honesty that I think most Stanford fans have accepted right now, that this program is going to be much more like it was pre-Harbaugh, that it will compete, but it will be a lot more like what the president would want it to be, a president of Stanford, and that's 6-16. They just want to put a product out in the field. They're not trying to compete for championships anymore. And for most people at Stanford, they're fine with that. So there's just a little bit of a different culture thing. I do want to defend, again, Stanford also played Oregon, did not let up any sacks, and also pushed their line around a bit. Both teams, what I'm saying is both teams have something to be excited about. But I think Washington State, much more in the near term. Then again, you look at both of their 2021 recruiting class. Stanford is 10. I expected them to be lower because the class is bad. And Washington State just got bumped down to 11. So they're not bringing in new talent that you're really excited about. But I think just having someone fresh in Nick Rolovich is going to be huge for Washington State, and why I'm leaning that way. I think David Shaw, we talked about it on Cardinal Dash a lot, has lifetime job security and isn't looking at things in new ways. And I think we need a little bit of newness here at Stanford, whereas Nick Rolovich, I love the hire. Love anyone from City College. I think that was great. And building something. And that's what I'm excited for.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up really just how Stanford has a different culture, because I know that football may be struggling a little bit for the university, but virtually any sport in the NCAA that's not football, Stanford's always in some sort of conversation, right? Women's basketball, men's basketball, soccer. I mean, volleyball, any other sport, you guys are definitely up there. It's a shame to see football take such a dip in a Power 5 school like this. And I can't speak too much on the athletic department here at WSU. Although we have a really up and coming athletic department with all of our different sports going on. I mean, in this past 4-year span since I've been a student here, we've had probably the best, we've probably had the best range of athletics for school history, really one of the best at least. I mean, soccer, volleyball, basketball is on the up and coming, and then all I have to say is Minshew, right? That's all I have to say. So I'm wearing we boosted all of Jacksonville's fans over the course of an off season. I want to say we doubled it at least. Like they sell Jaguars gear in Pullman. Like if that doesn't show the impact that this athletic department's had in the past 4 years, I don't know what does. But Rolovich is definitely doing the right things for this program in terms of obviously coaching these guys, but he brought in a quarterback that he was scouting in high school in Hawaii that he brought with him out here to Pullman, and they're having nothing but success so far. Maybe not in terms of being 2-0, but in terms of really just getting the offense up and rolling, they're just absolutely killing it. All this without Max Borghi, right? So the fact that all these things are coming together, not only as a football team, but just as an athletic department, a year or two from now, we'll be right back up there with them. We'll be right back up there in the heyday that we had in 2018. As much as I'll give a shout out to my co-host Cody Sheeler. He had a great take on WSU's recruiting talent. Sure, we're not getting the number 1 and number 2 recruit in the country like Oregon is, or like USC is, or anything like that, but we know how to recruit talent just on a 3-star, borderline 4-star level every single year. I mean, Minshew was a 2-star out of high school, and he bounced around from different colleges, and we got him. Anthony Gordon was a JUCO transfer from City College in San Fran. We know how to scout just talent that no one else really sees, right? Of course, we don't have the recruiting power that Oregon and USC has, but people who want to come to play in Pullman want to play for our community, want to play for our culture. I'm sorry that we don't have a 90,000 person, a 90,000 capacity stadium like you do in Michigan or USC, or, I'm sorry we don't have a big stadium like that. We have a 30,000 roughly capacity stadium. We got about 15,000 students every year. So I'd say a third of our stadium is filled with students every game. So you're telling me 2/3 of our students go to our football games every time? I'd say that's a pretty great fans. I say that's a pretty good community that we have to go off of. So 2 years from now, you'll see us right back up there. I'll tell you that much.
That's really cool and really interesting to hear how much student support there is. Stanford obviously does not get that. The joke going into this year is that Stanford was used to playing in quiet stadiums, so they were going to do a little bit better this year in the stadiums without any fans, just because the student support isn't there. The undergraduate body is a lot smaller. And I think a fair assessment, and I'm glad you touched on how much success there is in other aspects of the athletic department. Stanford women's soccer, that's the one that's really near and dear to my heart. And then to my co-host, King Jemison, he follows that women's volleyball team, 2 absolutely fantastic teams. Women's basketball ranked number 2 in the country. Men's basketball just got Zaire. They're really excited for this.
Tyrell Terry get drafted, yeah.
And Ty Terry got drafted 31. So a lot to like around the farm, not necessarily when it comes to football. It's not there right now. I think they can get back to that area. And King Jemison and I have talked about this before in the past. When they were at that, they were doing what Wazoo is doing now, where they were recruiting those 3-stars, the hard-nosed guys, the dedicated guys, and making them into much better players. But we haven't really seen that. For a while, Stanford could rely on recruiting really smart players that were able to execute a system. They kind of got brought in because they became a national profile school to getting these 4-stars, these 5-stars, and they could rode that for a while. But now they're in a kind of intermediate space where they're not as hungry anymore. So it will be interesting to see where they go from here. And then with that, I just want to thank everyone for watching. Everyone's been super thoughtful in the chat, so I want to thank you all for being here with that. And follow us at Dash Sports on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We have our website, dashsports.tv. Please watch Cougar Dash. They're amazing. Thursdays at 4, Cody and Ryan are there. And then find King and I Tuesdays at 6. And then for Ryan, I'm Daniel. Well,
you kind of broke up there a little bit for me, but if I could just plug my show real quick, Cougar Dash, 4:00 on Thursdays. Keep tuned in on Saturday. You'll see old Crimson flying for the however many of the time, of course, keep in mind for Minshew this Sunday, that could be a great possibility. But yeah, all I can say is go Cougs. Tune in at Cougar Dash, 4 p.m. on Thursday.